Friday, the final day of the week. These are the voyages of the program Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Its ongoing mission to explore strange new movies, to seek out new bits and new edification, to boldly go where no radio program has gone before. Elkent's Movie Club. It's Elkent's Movie Club. Elkent's Movie Club. It's Elkent's Movie Club.
It is indeed Elkent's Movie Club, and we are joined, as always, by Kent Walgamon from the Lincoln Journal-Star. Hello, Kent.
Hi, Kent. Hello. They call me Mr. Stibbs.
Yeah. How are you? You know who used to say that, Josh?
They call me Mr. Blank. No. I know this
It was
reference.
Stubbs, right?
They call me Mr. Stubbs. Is that what it was?
Something like that. It was from, I asked that. Now I'm not going to think of it.
Nice job, idiot.
Well, isn't that from...
He was a butler in a show. Kent,
Oh.
do you know what it is?
Well, they call me Mr. Tibbs is from
Tibbs.
in the Heat of the Night.
Is that Sydney?
Sidney Poitier played him. Yep, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
I got there.
There you go.
The first time I heard that reference was in Toy Story.
Yeah?
Because the pig is like, they call me Mr. Pig, and then he charges.
Oh.
That's from Lion King, actually.
Oh, it is from Lion King. You're right.
Because I was going to say that's the first time I remembered.
Oh,
it.
interesting.
It was Pumbaa.
Hey, call me Mr. Pig.
Well, originally this was supposed to be Michael Severe. He sadly had to go to
Sorry, Kent.
He sadly had to go to a funeral, so he was unable to make it back to Omaha in time. Now, I asked Stibbs if he wanted to go with Michael's pick, and he said, yeah, I've never seen it before. And I think he also added, plus if it sucks, I could make fun of him for it.
I knew it wouldn't. I had seen clips of this and know enough about it to know it was a good movie.
Yeah, and I knew nothing about it. Well, since you're the guest of honor, do you want to tell the folks what the movie is about?
Certainly. It's based on a true story that happened in Brooklyn in, what was it, 74, 5,
71-ish.
72.
2.
It's about a kind of ragtag group of former Vietnam vets who want to rob a bank and are not very good at it. So
they're horrible at it.
Worst bank robbers ever.
It goes horribly wrong pretty much immediately. I will say this, it's funnier than I thought it would be.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
Like, it's not a comedy, but the foils that they go through immediately, it's just hilarious watching them think that they know what they're doing and just screw up every turn. And fairly quickly, there's a lot of cops outside. The whole town's outside. It's on television. They kind of took the, at least city. I don't know. Kent, you may be able to talk more about how much of the country it took by storm over the course of that, if maybe not during, but after. But they had the public kind of rooting for them throughough.
And you see that with the pizza delivery guy who stops by.
Yeah,
It's like really
jacked
excited
about meeting him, and everyone's there was another bank robbery that had happened in the past where the cops shot a bunch of innocent people, so everyone's kind of against the cops. I mean, that's kind of the basic premise, right? I'm not going to give anything away that actually happens at the end until we get there, but I enjoyed it thoroughly and could not imagine having to stop it at any point to watch it at a later date. I had to get through it right away.
Ken, I broke this movie up into multiple viewings because I had a very busy week. I don't like doing that.
He had to run and walk and talk about running and walking and
mainly the talking. It was mainly doing many podcasts this week, but I did not like doing
get
that.
enough of hearing himself in a microphone. He can't pull himself away from a microphone long enough to watch a whole movie.
I literally cannot. I need to be better about that. Did he miss anything, Ken? I don't think so. I think that, the one thing that I would say, and this is less, though I guess it is plot related, deals much more in sexuality than I would have, and in a very modern way.
Yeah.
Dare I say, given some of the conversation that surrounded the Olympics over the last week
And
or so.
politics in general over the last
Definitely
8 years.
in a way that totally surprised me for a movie that was released in 1975. And again, I didn't have any knowledge of anything about this movie. Didn't know it was based on a true story. Didn't know what it was about. Didn't know that it was going to take place over the course of one day, though I guess the title should have given
One
that
afternoon,
away.
really,
Yeah.
yeah.
So like all of that really, really surprised me as, what are we about halfway through the movie when you kind of start learning exactly why the Al Pacino character is doing what he's doing.
All of the above is correct. As far as the sexuality part of it, it probably is, I think, probably the first film of this kind that was like a major distributed kind of movie that hit on this, bisexuality, gay, whatever, however you want to put it. Because you got one gay character, you got one who's bisexual, apparently. And so this was one of the very first ones of that. It's notable, I think, that Chris Sarandon, who plays the gay guy, got an Academy Award nomination. Which, and he's in it. What 2 scenes?
Yeah, he's barely in the movie.
That one phone call that they finally had was very compelling. Like,
and the other thing about it, I know way more than I should about this movie, because I have he's long dead now, but Sidney Lumet directed it, and I interviewed him at length a couple times. The first time I talked to him, we hit it off so well that we did it again. And so one of the times I talked to him quite a bit about this movie. And this was an adaptation of the true story. The only name that is the same name is the John, how do you say his name? Cazale? You guys are the broadcast guys, Fredo Corleone.
Yeah, the guy who played Fredo. That's right. That's how I'll refer to him.
Yeah. His Sal is the same name as the real guy. They changed all the other names, and the real guy who Pacino plays has said that it's 30% of what happened and 70% is made up.
Okay.
Which I think is probably fair. I mean, I can give you one example that doesn't spoil anything. The Pacino character was no longer married when this happened.
Okay.
So it's stuff like that.
His former wife. Correct.
Yeah. So it's stuff like that. What this this movie is got put in the National Historic Register. It's that good. It got, it was multiple Oscar nominated and one for screenplay because it got blasted on every other category by One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which won Best Picture, Best Actor.
It's one of the few movies that won the Big Five, right?
Right. And so this one didn't get any. But Lumet got nominated 4 times for Best Director and never got it. And he's one of the, I think, most underrated or underappreciated directors of that era, which is like, to me, the second golden era of movies. They talk about the golden era of the 30s, 40s, whatever. This one in the early 70s was, go look at the list, Godfather movies.
Yeah, we've done a few of them. Chinatown, we did. We've done the first Godfather.
Yeah, just one after the other, and you thought these kind of movies are going to keep coming out forever, and of course they didn't. And this one was one of the best ones, and it's because I think it also does have that humor, right? The thing is kind of a dark comedy on one level, right? It managed to be both a dark comedy, a pretty good drama. They call it a thriller. I wouldn't put it in that category. There's not that much, quote, thrilling. And then like I say, I can go on and on. But the other interesting thing is to keep it. He was a neo-realism, is what you call what he does, what Lumet did, and to keep it real. Instead of building a soundstage, they bought a warehouse on a street in Brooklyn, redid the warehouse, turned it into a bank, and shot everything there. So that is a Brooklyn neighborhood,
Awesome.
1973 or whenever they shot it, 1974, and innovatively to show. And if you haven't seen it, the Pacino character is hyperactive, runs around, all of that. In order to follow him around, they put the cameraman on roller skates and in a chair with rollers and pushed him around to keep after him.
That's awesome.
And it was that kind of stuff that, and finally, even though it won the best Oscar for best screenplay, Lumet let him. Lumet, by the way, was a rehearsal, kind of like Clint Eastwood. Shoot it once because you got it so rehearsed that it's going to work. So, but he let him improvise as long as they stayed close to the script. So the Attica thing, total improvised by both Pacino and the crowd.
Yeah, those outdoor shots were great.
Yeah, every single time. You know, Ken, one of the things that I was thinking of as I'm watching this movie, because, you know, lately we have been doing a lot of newer stuff, is how much I enjoy old movies that are shot on film and just that like grainy look to them. Like this movie, I thought it looked awesome. It looked very real. And, you know, like what you're talking about there, where they're in Brooklyn and they buy this building and then they turn it into a bank. Like, I thought the realism of this, where everyone seemed a little sweaty and a little dirty, and like obviously the power, they cut the power, and so that's gonna, you know, make everybody like that. And so I don't know, it's a reminder of like how they used to do stuff. I think with movies is so cool.
I agree. To add on to that, Kent, like when you brought up his pseudo realism or whatever you called it, the way he made movies, I was thinking of that immediately throughout that. Is like, it seemed, I don't know any of this for sure, I could make an ass of myself, but like this era of movie, it feels like it kind of like movies used to be just basically a theater play filmed and then
and that's why they would talk a very specific
they would talk
way.
Goofy, and you can tell had some like corny dialogue at times, but was definitely shifting into that, making it look like you are sitting there at this event. And it did an incredible job at it. To me, for not seeing a ton of movies from this era, it was not what I expected. The way it looked, the way it felt, the way it was written, the way it was filmed, all of it was a surprise to me.
And to get back to Josh's point about how it looked like when they shut off the power and you could see how sweaty and stuff they were. This is the detail to which Lumet would go. His very first movies were all television movies in the 50s and early 60s. So you were very much you and four other people making the movie, right? So you really had to learn how to do everything. He didn't like the way that people's sweat looked in the way they were doing it in the 70s. So he went back to the 60s and literally mixed up the sweat himself that was on Pacino in the last scene when they're in the car. That Sidney Lumet actually made that himself so he could shoot it longer and it looked right. I mean, that was the level of detail.
That's amazing. Because everyone in the car at the end, like it's like they
came from being sweaty. At first, they're outside and they're in a car, so it probably felt good. But then that was the one thrilling part.
Yes, I was going to say,
it's like you're on the edge of your seat of what's
going to happen.
Stuff thrown at them.
I actually rewound it, like when all the stuff happens. I'm like, okay, I want to rewatch.
I realized there wasn't dialogue for like 5 minutes, and I was like, I got to make sure I'm catching everything because I kind of would. I was watching it, but I wasn't paying a ton of attention. I was waiting for someone to talk. And I was like, oh, this whole scene is just about this. Yeah. And the shots in that too, like when they first got to the airport, that shot of them like curling all the way around and then bringing the plane in. And then I thought about filming back then at an airport. Like how much time and effort that would have taken to make sure you had planes in the shot when you wanted it as they're driving by and fly. I mean, I'm sure they were at a real airport in the background to make sure that they could get all that into a shot. It was all very impressive.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a really great movie. I can Lumet, interestingly, Pacino, it came together with the two of them. It was always designed in a sense as a Pacino vehicle, but he backed out of it a couple times before they convinced him to go
How
ahead.
come?
Unclear. There is some speculation that he was a little
Uncomfortable?
well, no, he's a big time method actor, or he was at the time. And there is a lot of speculation that he didn't want to become that guy, right? In the way
Very neurotic and kind of crazy. Yeah.
And kind of gay and all of that. And he didn't want to do that. And they had to talk him into it, essentially.
You know, Ken, I
He was awesome in this.
yeah,
we didn't
every,
really get to that. He
every
was
time
phenomenal.
I watch an older movie with him, you know, and I'm looking at his filmography right now. Godfather is in 72. Godfather 2 is in 74. This is in 75. Now, I've mentioned I've never seen Scarface, but one of the reasons why is I know
That is a what?
it's just all the clips, like it just looks so like
it's become a parody of
Yeah,
itself
and so,
on
like,
the internet at this
I
point.
remember,
almost,
Kent, the
like-
first time that I watched The Godfather, and I was like, where is Al Pacino? I thought Al Pacino was in this movie because he's so understated compared to like what I imagine him to be in the hoo-ah, you know, the Al Pacino.
Any
like
given Sunday.
his voice is so different. And so, I don't know, this is another reminder of like, I really, really like
agree.
young Al Pacino. He's a
realized
kick-ass actor.
Why he has the respect that he does.
Oh,
when you
yeah.
see movies
He's
like
incredible.
Because, our kids our age, if you didn't see that
You know him
stuff
as a
until you were-
meme.
You know him as a meme. You
Yeah,
know
say
him
hello to my little friend.
older and all these. And like I said, any given Sunday, he's a caricature of himself in that stuff.
Or that bad Adam Sandler movie.
It was that
Jack
anger
and-
management, but
Oh, I never saw that one.
Jack and whatever. Jack and Jill.
Jill.
Jack
Yeah, I
and
didn't see
Jill.
that either.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
Horrible
it's a
movie.
reminder as to why he has the respect that he does. He was an incredible actor, and he was awesome in this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I just realized I've never seen Scent of a Woman either, and that's the only movie he's won an Oscar for.
Yeah, I haven't either.
That one is when he started he sort of slid into the over the top Al
Yeah.
into the woman.
Interesting. Nick, what did you think? You haven't said anything.
I echo a lot of the sentiments you had. My biggest things that I noticed, I felt some of the shots, and this is probably just me being 27. I felt some of the shots were unnecessary or went on a bit longer than they needed to. Like the one that stands out to me the most is when they have these two helicopters. There's like the police helicopter and like this news helicopter, and then they just zoom in on the news helicopter and they just show a guy with a camera with the news helicopter for a little bit, and then they show the helicopter leave. And in my head, I'm like, is this because they spent a lot of the budget on the helicopter and they just wanted to make sure they used
Maybe
the film to get the helicopter? And it felt a bit too much. Some of the scenes that lasted a bit long, I understand why, like the airplane scene.
Yeah.
That was really good for setting tension.
Yeah.
But stuff like that, the way they handled the gay community and some of that stuff, and I get a lot of it is just kind of a product of the time. And I think it is, I didn't expect this movie to handle it as well as it did.
That's
for
what I
being
thought,
made
Nick.
in the 70s.
Definitely.
But there were still some parts, and looking back at it in 2024 eyes, where it's like, oh, that didn't age super well, but I get it.
definitely.
Yeah.
Well, and on that front, the leading gay organization of the time, and I can't remember its name, signed off on the script.
Okay.
Yeah. So there was no issue from their side anyway about the script. And I can tell you why some of those, like the helicopter thing, we're talking early 70s. There weren't helicopters flying all over the place in criminal situations. And it was a big deal. I'm old enough now, obviously, that in Lincoln, the police got a helicopter here in the 70s, mid 70s. That was a big deal, right? You know, and so, yeah, I won't tell stories on us, but we would get on the roof of the house that we lived in when Mr. Police helicopter was flying by, and we would send him some very distinct signals. Language.
But I mean, otherwise, I liked the movie. It was a really compelling movie.
Definitely compelling.
I agree with you. I like Al Pacino a lot more than whatever we have now and what we started to get when he got more over the top. I like how they made this character really sympathetic almost right away, because you could tell he was in over his head almost immediately. The second, like his first reaction, I think, when they went into the bank, it's like, oh, there's only this much money here. Yeah. Ah, crap. And then he starts like trying to improvise right away. I thought that was good. Then he just burns that book. And like, what are you doing? It's like, I'm burning the book.
Yeah, I kind of don't. I will say the one thing that if I had to come up with something that a criticism of some sort that I had thought, it wasn't necessarily that certain scenes I thought were lasting longer. I do think, and I don't think the movie was too long necessarily. They don't have to cut it back, but I felt like at some point in the back, I don't know, the middle third, act 2, where he's like going out and coming in and going out and coming in and going out and coming in. It seemed like some of those didn't have to happen.
Well, and my thought was like,
okay,
could you just do that? Like, I know that there is one of your guys is in there with a gun, and so like you don't want to do something dumb here, but it was just like, that's a lot of going back. Is that like how hostage negotiations were in the 70s?
That was my first thought. Then I was like, well, it could have been.
I guess there's somebody again there inside with the gun.
I don't know what. Yeah, that this could have been the case, and it was more just like it got repetitive.
Yeah, like when he has the pizza and he needs the guy to open the door, I'm like, okay, this is getting a little much.
Yeah. It just it harked on that, the fact that he could come in and out, and whatever those conversations were, a little bit too much, maybe, but it didn't ruin the movie to me at all. It didn't make it too long.
Historically, the context for that is because it was sort of a true story. There had been a bank robbery of that failed sort of bank robbery not too long before that, somewhere in New York, where the cops came in shooting and killed a bunch of innocent people.
Is that the one he mentions, the Attica one?
No, Attica was I thought that was a reference to the
Attica's a riot in the prison.
Oh, okay.
I had to
look New York State prison had a giant riot in the early 70s at about the same time. So, but there had been, so the cops were really reluctant to do anything in this situation, which is what led it, which is why they didn't come in blasting through the back door when they had him in the front, outside in front.
All right.
The more we watch movies, not necessarily older movies, but movies that take place in a single location for most of it, the more I find myself loving that and wanting more of that. I think it lets the actors and the writers and the director get really creative with the space, and it makes the space itself a character along with the other actors inside. I want to see more of that just in general. I love that.
I like rewatching movies that do that too, because like
then you start picking up stuff.
I was thinking when they first walked into that bank, looking in the background of all the people that are in there, I'm like, this is interesting because I know, not because I've seen it, but like I know they're all going to be stuck in here soon. It's like all these people that just look like extras right now
are going to
be about to become main characters of this story, and seeing that on a rewatch is fun to watch that space become home for the next 2 hours.
It also gives you it lets you know the space. It gives you an idea of the layout of the space in your head. So like, oh, he's going back there, and then to the right, that's the back door.
Yeah, which makes it much more realistic.
Exactly.
Well, I loved it.
Yeah, that's Dog Day Afternoon. I feel bad for Michael because he picked it because this is his favorite movie. And
well, then he's seen it.
Yeah.
Whatever. What do we have to feel bad for? He's seen it 100 times.
I guess when you view it that way, I look forward to him listening to this podcast and texting me F-Stibs at some point in time. I know it's coming.
I'm sure he'll tweet it at me.